Have you ever wondered if life on Earth could actually survive in the vacuum of space? It sounds impossible, right? No air, extreme radiation, freezing cold, and then scorching heat. You'd think no creature could possibly make it out there alive. But there's one little bug that can. And the way it does it will absolutely blow your mind. Today, we're talking about the tardigrade, also known as the water bear, an animal so tough it can literally survive the emptiness of space. So let's start with what a tardigrade even is. At first glance, they don't look like much. Tiny, plump, almost like a microscopic gummy bear with legs. They're so small that you need a microscope just to see them. Most of them live in moss, lichens, soil, or water droplets. Sounds ordinary enough, right? But beneath that squishy appearance is one of the toughest creatures ever discovered. In fact, scientists sometimes call them extremophils because they can endure conditions that would instantly kill almost every other living thing. Here's where things get crazy. Tardigrades have been found surviving temperatures close to absolute zero, which is around minus 273 degrees Celsius, and also extreme heat well above boiling water. They can withstand crushing pressure thousands of times greater than what you feel at the bottom of the ocean. And if that wasn't enough, they can resist radiation that would shred human DNA in seconds. Already sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the real kicker is that they can survive in the vacuum of space itself. That's not speculation, that's a proven fact. Back in 2007, European scientists launched an experiment where tardigrades were literally sent into orbit. The spacecraft exposed them directly to the vacuum of space. No oxygen, brutal radiation, and wild temperature swings. And guess what? When they were brought back to Earth, not only were some still alive, but they were able to reproduce. That means these little bugs didn't just cling to life, they came back from space ready to keep their species going. Just pause and think about that for a second. Humans need million-dollar spacesuits to last minutes in space. But this microscopic creature shrugs it off like nothing happened. Now you might be wondering, how is this even possible? The secret lies in a process called cryptobiosis. When conditions around them become too extreme, tardigrades basically shut themselves down. They lose almost all of the water in their bodies, curl up into a dry little ball, and enter a state that's almost like suspended animation. In this form, their metabolism slows to nearly zero, and they can stay that way for years, even decades. Then, when things improve, add water, a bit of food, they wake back up as if nothing ever happened. It's kind of like putting your entire body on pause, pressing save and loading back in when the world isn't trying to kill you anymore. And here's the part that gets even wilder. Scientists have discovered special proteins in tardigrades that protect their DNA from radiation damage. These proteins act like tiny shields, preventing the kind of mutations that would destroy most other organisms. Some researchers are even studying whether we could use these proteins in medicine, maybe to protect human cells from radiation during cancer treatments, or even to help astronauts survive long journeys in deep space. Imagine that. The survival tricks of a microscopic bug could one day help humans travel to Mars or beyond. Oh, and before I go any further, if you're fascinated by mind-bending science like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. I share crazy discoveries about nature, the universe, and the limits of human survival every week, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's dive even deeper. Why does this matter? Well, tardigrades surviving in space changes how we think about life in the universe. If an animal from Earth can handle conditions that harsh, maybe life doesn't need the perfect cozy planet we always imagine. Maybe microbial life could survive on Mars, hidden in the soil, or under the ice of Europa, Jupiter's moon, or even hitching a ride on comets across the galaxy. The existence of tardigrades makes the idea of panspermia, that life can spread between worlds, not just science fiction, but a possibility we have to take seriously. And that raises an even bigger question. Could tardigrades, or something like them, be the ultimate survivors of Earth? Think about it. If a giant asteroid wiped out humanity tomorrow, or if nuclear war made the planet nearly unlivable, tardigrades might still be here, tucked away in their microscopic survival pods, waiting it out until the world calms down. Some scientists even call them the most indestructible species on the planet. In other words, if Earth were ever rebooted, tardigrades might be one of the last life forms standing. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. If these creatures are so unstoppable, should we be worried about them? Don't panic. Tardigrades aren't dangerous. They don't bite, they don't spread disease, and they're not going to take over the world. In fact, most people live their entire lives never realizing they're surrounded by them. If you've ever looked closely at a piece of moss in your backyard, chances are there were tardigrades in there, just going about their microscopic business. They're more like quiet, indestructible neighbors than anything else. But still, they raise one of the most profound ideas in science: resilience. The fact that life, even at its tiniest scale, has found ways to adapt to extremes we once thought were impossible, reminds us that the universe might be more alive than we imagine. Every time we think we've found the absolute limits of survival, tardigrades come along and say, "Not so fast." So the next time you look up at the stars, remember this. Somewhere, floating out there in the cold void, a tardigrade might still be alive, waiting for its next drop of water. And maybe, just maybe, these tiny creatures hold the key to understanding not just how life survives, but how it spreads, evolves, and thrives against all odds. If that doesn't make you see the world and the universe a little differently, I don't know what will.